welcome to Inception.
That's all right. I'll just get in something.
It's going to be one of those nights. Hello, let's be slightly professional. No, let's not. Hello and good evening to Inception Podcast. This is a special podcast. It's our panel podcast. And we do have a title for it, for where we're going to go. And it's Seeding of Consciousness. So we're going to open the floor. We're going to have an organic conversation. We're not going to be professional. We're just going to be, how many of us in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. We're just going to have an organic conversation and go deep as we possibly can. I'm hoping so deep that we don't just go down the rabbit hole. We get the camping beds out, we have a coffee, and we go deep. So first of all, everybody, welcome and thank you to Inception Podcast. Right, would you like to introduce yourself? So, Faye, hello.
Hi, I'm Faye from the UK, which rhymes. I've had all sorts of things happen in my life, some crazy things, some off the planet things, all sorts of things, but hey, I'm still here. I'm just waiting for a lift.
I just know it's going to be one of those nights. Okay, thank you. Chris, who are you?
Who am I? Man, you asked me that question last time, and I barely know the answer. I am host of Forbidden Knowledge News and Beyond Classified. You guys have probably heard me around telling fart jokes on Sunday on day 0 as well. So, hello, everyone. I'm here to have a nice time and have some discussions about consciousness.
Wonderful. Thank you. And hello, Robert. Who are you? You're
I'm
not
Robert.
the Mathieu, though. I know that, and you don't speak Italian. Apart from that, who are you?
Well,
Oops.
I'm an experiencer and a researcher into the UFOs and the paranormal. How's that?
That's perfect, actually, Robert. That was very, direct, wasn't it? Yeah, well done. Now, save the best to last, Chris. Ryder. Hello, Space Jesus. Yes, it's in the UK too. Who are you?
I've actually changed it to Space Daddy now. I'm now Space Daddy. I'm just playing. I'm Ryder Lee. I am a truth seeker, knowledge guardian, spiritual educator, trying to use my real world experiences to educate and elevate others to awaken and question the reality, expand our consciousness, because I think that's what it's all about, is expansion. And they want to put us into a very tight-knit box and wrap it up with a little bow, and that's not the way our reality works. And I also run a YouTube channel and podcast called Raised by Giants, where I interview others from all different backgrounds about their awakening process. Do one once a week on an array of topics, bringing people different perspectives of, what's going on in the world on an individual and collective level.
Wow.
So,
stop there. There's too much. He does so much. So Space Daddy now. Space Daddy. Right. So what is the best thing to do? If everyone could stay muted, okay? And then as it goes around, we'll play musical chairs, so to speak. I'll put out a question. I'll direct it at somebody to start it off. But then if you want to interact with the other panel member, unmute and interact and go with it. No fighting in the Zoom room, okay? Chris, no muting us because you've got the power. Okay, you're the host. Don't you start muting me when I talk. And on that note, so obviously coming off the individual podcasts I've done with all of you, I'm just going to throw out the first area to go into consciousness. So I'm going to go to Chris. Start off the conversation. Let's talk about the human experience. And where we're going to go with this now is a human experience in current times? What's going on with consciousness? What's happening with consciousness now?
Consciousness is being pulled in a lot of different directions, I believe. I think that consciousness ultimately is wanting to experience growth and knowledge, and it's trying to experience that in all different directions through as many experiences as possible. And right now, I think consciousness wants to get out from under tyranny. It's since we're all a collective, we're all experiencing each other's consciousness on some level, but we're having our individual experiences. So I think that right now consciousness is trying to get out of a hole it's dug itself in. Just wanting to experience maybe the more negative things in life for a while. Who knows what happened? Went down the wrong direction, I think. And I think it's trying to correct itself and possibly, grow and learn and create experiences that are going to be for the better of the collective.
Okay, cool. Anyone want to come back at Chris with that? Anything? Oh, it's all silent. First time ever. That's fine. Faye?
Yeah. I just think that consciousness is expanding really quickly. And as it's expanding, so it's growing, which is bringing all these new experiences in, and it's bringing in different people are going through different realities and different feelings because it's just changing so rapidly. And I don't know, it's if I go back a while, then for a time everything seemed the same. But now it's quickened up so much, and every day it's something else is coming in, and I feel this is how we're evolving, because we're having to go twice as fast to keep up with everything that's coming in. But that's amazing. I can go with that, and I think a lot of other people can. And those that are not getting all these experiences as fast as what some of us are at a different stage of the evolution, and it's the same as anything else. A frog goes from a tadpole to a frog, so it swims, then it gets legs, and then it's a different thing altogether.
Okay, I hear you. That's great stuff. Robert?
Hello?
Hello, Robert?
Oh, can you hear me now? I was having some computer problems there for a minute.
You're a bit low.
Yeah, I'm not sure he heard the question. He was having some problems and had to connect.
Do you want to ask it, Chris? Go on.
Well, she was asking what your thoughts on consciousness when it comes to our current global situation, and what is happening with consciousness on, I guess, an underlying scale.
He listened to me. Good. You passed.
I did hear what they said, and I do agree with that. There's yeah, I definitely think that there's a certain percentage of individuals who are tuning into what you call it, a higher consciousness, or at least a broader consciousness is probably better than higher. And developing, I think there's a certain percentage of the population that are developing abilities that I think we're all meant to develop at some point. Telepathic abilities, psychic abilities. I think there's a greater number of people who could be characterized as empaths than probably at any other point in history. So I think that there's also, along with that, an increased effort to try to restrict the development of consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opposite side. I think that there's always been this tradition of the psychically gifted being targeted, and whether that was targeted through like black magic, secret societies, or now perhaps through technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's I still consider it to some degree to be a battle between good and evil, not ultimate good and evil, because I don't know if ultimate good and evil exists. But I think that there is a battle over human souls and human consciousness right now. And there's a dark side to it and there's a light side to it.
Okay, great analogy, lovely. Last but definitely not least, Space Daddy. Yeah.
Well, I think whenever you're talking about consciousness, you kind of have to define what consciousness is, because it's a very difficult thing to actually describe what it is. And I don't think a lot of people understand or even know what consciousness actually is. So it's a very difficult thing to kind of talk about, because we have different kinds of consciousness. We have our personal and our individual consciousness, and then we have a collective consciousness, right? What I think the consciousness is consciousness is what lets us inhabit this avatar, right? And lets us actually, if without consciousness, we would be kind of lifeless, and we wouldn't be able to perceive certain things and receive certain information and not have discernment about those things, right? And that's the kind of the information that I've received, is that the AI that's in control of our reality has actually made it and has split our consciousness between our soul and our spirit. And some beings out there, some human beings have just consciousness. They don't have a soul or a spirit, right? That's why things are really messed up, because this AI has been able to separate all of them and put just certain ones into certain teams or certain people. So you have some people running around with just the consciousness, and then you have some people running around with just the soul, and then you have other people running around with spirit, right? And the people that have all three, which the way that it's supposed to be, are very powerful beings, right? If we can actually control our consciousness, soul, and spirit, get them working in tandem with each other, then we can basically do whatever we want. We're super powerful beings in that way. But the dark side and the negative, regressive AI has made that very difficult for us to do, because it's been fracturing our consciousness and splitting our soul and splitting our spirit.
Wow, that was deep. Okay, so if we could stay on this, Sarah, so on the consciousness, I mean, what's come up in different analogies or different truths, basically the same thing. We've got the polarity, which is the experience, consciousness, experiencing the human will have the polarities. So we can use the terminologies coming from Homo sapiens sapien. Someone's interfering tonight. Can you hear an echo?
I think if everyone mutes when one person is talking, that may solve the problem. If everyone can mute their Zoom microphone. If not, it's some kind of interference that I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know. Could be.
Okay, I think that solved it. If everyone just mutes up while the other person talks, that should be good.
Okay. So where was I? So, we're looking at, so if we come from the Homo sapien perspective, the good and the evil, or non-evil, whatever you want to call it, in current times, coming from that perspective, I am perceiving, similar to all of you, but the terminologies we use are different. Like Ryder uses AI. I use it as consciousness taking on the role of the AI experience to push the other side, the lighter side, pushing them to awaken to their true selves. I don't want to talk too much about me tonight. I want you guys to actually get this going. So could we go deeper into that? Do we have a sort of like a rough agreement that everything is consciousness, whether we call it AI or whether we call it just consciousness playing the role of the AI, the negative Nellies, whatever. If we can go to that level of this, then do you think there is, at this present time in current times of all that's going on, is there anything to fear? For the audience is listening in on this, is there anything to fear? So if you've got one source consciousness playing the roles of multiple, yeah, is there anything to fear? Ryder.
That's kind of an open-ended question, Gloria, because there's a lot to fear, right? There's a lot of problems, and it's hard to nail down just to one issue or one problem, because it's everywhere. We have all kinds of problems in our society. Now, if you're talking about a spiritual problem, that's a different sort of problem. Now, I don't know if you're referring to the human construct and our environment.
I'm referring to the, sorry, Ryder, I should have clarified, I do apologize. Referring to the spiritual. So we're aware that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So I'm dealing with consciousness itself, and asking for the spirit being, is there anything to fear on that aspect? So again, I'm coming from the juxtaposition. I do apologize. It's articulating this is really hard. Where I want to go, it's really hard to articulate it. So could I hold you on this, on consciousness itself, you consciousness, the spirit being, is there anything to fear?
Yes, I think that there is something to fear, because there's a bunch of traps for us to kind of get locked into, not only in this physical world, but spiritually as well. And that revolves around ideas, thoughts, and beliefs too. And then there's also a bunch of different traps after we pass on into the next realm, like a reincarnation trap. That's a very, and that's made it to where we don't know who we are, what we're doing here, or anything about where we're from. You know, that's really been a huge destructive point on the planet and has tampered with our consciousness, because if we could remember who we are, where we're from, and what we're doing here, then there wouldn't hardly be any problems. Then we would know. We would know that we're infinite spirit beings. We would know that we're multi-dimensional. Now, and there's been a lot of people talking about all of those things, but talking about is one thing, but actually knowing is another thing. And they've taken that knowing away from us, if that makes any sense.
No, actually, you've clarified in that part. Now, you've clarified it. It makes a lot of sense. So, guys, what we're saying is, so Ryder's now raised the next area to go into, where conscious beings, which we are consciousness, that has forgotten who it is. Okay, so I'm going to go to Faye on this one. Okay, run that from Ryder to you. Faye, how can then we recall? What is it we need to do to recall who we are? To take away the fear, yeah.
I think we're just, I can't say who I am because I don't know who I am.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And all I know is what comes in, how I analyse it, and how I interpret it, and what I do with it. But if you ask me who I am, I don't really know, because
no, it's not so much who you are. It's if you're aware that you're a conscious being, which you are, okay, yeah. Spiritual being. How do you deal with the fear that Ryder's raised that is going on? The many spiritual beings, Homo sapiens, they're living in fear, and they have even awareness that they are spiritual beings in a lot of the spiritual groups. So how do you deal with the fear? or can we deal with the fear? Is there a way out?
Well, if you deal with fear every day, then you learn to live with it, and you don't always overcome it. Well, you can't overcome it because fear comes in so many different forms, so many, and can come from so many different angles. And very often, when it's a new fear and you're not used, you've not encountered it before, then it can be terrifying and it can be overwhelming. A fear is only a fear when you don't know it. A fear that you know is a different fear altogether.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it anyway.
Well, the fears that surround us, humanity at the moment, and what we're going through, and it's really shifting to, let's say, it's not looking very good at the moment for humanity. We'll just use the human word. I'm going to take this to Chris now. Okay, there is a reason in my madness where I'm trying to go with this. Bring it out, Chris. What about you? Telling on the back of Faye and Ryder, what Ryder said to Faye. What's your thoughts on this?
I think I have a little bit different take than Ryder. I don't think that ultimately, spiritually, we have anything to fear. I think that I couldn't tell you, there may be some kind of reincarnation trap. There may be some kind of thing that will send us back here. But ultimately, I think that there is a way out. I think that we have a way to transcend. I think death is just kind of a doorway to a new realm, to the next step. And I think there's always going to be that next step. We're perpetual energy. And that being said, ultimately, there shouldn't be anything to fear if that's the truth. If we are just consciousness, perpetual energy, and we have the option, or we have the ability to transcend after death, then no, ultimately, we shouldn't have anything to fear. But yes, we do need to remember what we are and who we are. And I think we do that by having these profound spiritual experiences, contact experiences, learning things from each other, and seeking out these spiritual things that help us grow and become and remember what we're supposed to be.
Which does help drop the fears, I would say. That's just my happens in there. Robert, what's your take on this? Robert, are you there? All right, who's kidnapped Robert? Where's Robert gone? Robert, can you unmute, darling? Oh,
I think you're muted, Robert.
Can you hear us, Robert?
You may need to disconnect and reconnect, Robert, because I don't even see you in the panel room. Like, your name isn't here or anything, so you may need to disconnect and reconnect.
How about now? Can you hear me?
There
now?
you are. There you are.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You're good.
Yeah, I keep moving in and out. I mean, I did hear the conversation, but then when I unmuted, I disconnected again briefly. But we're still on the topic of fear, right?
Yeah, we're still on the topic of fear.
Yeah,
How do we deal with the fear that is currently going on at the moment? How does the spiritual being move through this?
Well, I think that's really the ultimate question. I mean, if you're looking just at the UFO phenomenon, I mean, that's been a big question. A lot of people claim that initially they were afraid of these experiences, but gradually they became more comfortable with these beings, and now they almost welcome them. Young children who have these experiences are not afraid. So that's one aspect to it. Just looking at that piece of it more broadly. I think consciousness is too vague a term. It's kind of like describing the ocean as filled with water. I mean, that's true, but there's so many different forms of being within the ocean, and I think our level of being has a lot to do with what level of fear that we experience. If we're an enlightened being, I mean, for instance, the Buddha, I think the whole reason why the Buddha was here was to try to help people learn how to live, not to answer ultimate questions of metaphysics. Does God exist? What is God? All of these sort of theoretical questions, but just to help human beings deal with fear. And he was a pretty fearless being. He developed that ability, whether you want to call it enlightenment or whatever term you want to use. So I think we're all capable of that. I think that's the message of Buddhism, is that we can all become like Buddha. We're all Buddha-like, or we can tap into that, where we're not afraid of what's going to happen moment to moment. Where, if we're taken away in an ambulance in 15 minutes, we're just as accepting of that as if, we win the lottery. And so that is, I think, one level of being able to live. I do think that this is a culture that's been created to elicit fear. And I think that that's a conscious thing on the part of some humans out there. Perhaps other beings are involved as well. Again, I think that there is, at this level, of kind of a good and evil. I tend to believe that I tend to put credence in the idea that there are beings of hindrance. There are beings that are here to test us. Yeah. Now, why we chose to be tested is a different question. And Ryder pointing out the reincarnation karma thing, I think, is very important to understand. There's different perspectives on that. One is that it's a trap, that we're kind of being used, that we're kind of a slave world. The other is that we're slowly spiritualizing matter. That the idea isn't to escape the wheel of karma, which is one way out, but to become to a point where our soul, spirit, and body are all one, where there's no disease, where there's complete awareness of our previous lives and what our karma was, our previous interactions, an empathic connection between all beings. So I try to be optimistic and view that we're moving towards that. But kind of like giving birth, which is the analogy that you used, right? In terms of pain, perhaps we have to go through these periods of fear. Perhaps we have to learn how to deal with fear and how to deal with pain to get where we need to go. Otherwise, everything would have been given to us. We would have been these euphoric, always happy, joyful beings, but with no real substance.
No, yeah, and boring.
We would never have been tested in any way. So I think that's perhaps the purpose of human beings. And I'm sure we're not the only ones on this planet, but human beings, humanoids, whatever, people, beings at our level, is to experience the universe and to spiritualize matter. That's one alternative to the idea that there's this complete dichotomy of good and evil, or matter and spirit. So I hope that makes some sense to all
absolutely of you. Perfect. Does anyone want to come back at Ryder, Chris, Faye? Anyone want to come back on what Robert's just said? Take this deeper.
Yes, Robert, you're pretty spot on there. I like what you had to say. And the fear isn't so much from the reincarnation trap itself, to me. It's more of having to come back here and not remember anything and not know who we are, right? That's the fear. The fear isn't the trap itself. It's having to redo all of this over again with a clean slate. Right? That's my fear. So if I can find a way caught in that trap, then I'm going to do that, right? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I think a lot of this has to do with past life recall and bringing all of our soul back to us, right? Because we've been fractured out several times. Our soul has been fractured. Our consciousness has been fractured. Going through this reincarnation trap so many times. We have all been here for thousands of years. Right? We've been on this planet for a really long time, right? So that means that each time we've gone through this trap, we've been fractured more. So there's multiple versions of us on the planet right now that we are not aware about. And we have to be able to bring those past lives and those past souls back into our being so we can be complete. And then whenever we are complete, then we can ascend and we can get out of the loop and move on from this planet. And I think that that's one of the, that's not the only way, but I think that that's the true way and how we get out of here.
I like that one. I like Ryder's analogy. I'm going to throw out there, the fact is that we are actually having this conversation. I mean, you all know, I say we've already done it. This is just the drags of it, but that's just my truth. But the fact that we're having this conversation, a discussion on how to get out of this is a first, okay? So I want to hold it here where we are. Does anyone else want to add anything to that? Faye or Chris, to what's where this is going?
I just, it's my personal thought that a lot of what we experience as fear is learned and introduced to us. I think that at a pure conscious soul level, there is no fear. There's only, pure love and what we are at our true essence. And that a lot of this fear is from, having these human experiences and learning things and having these collective memories. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, my truth's very similar, because you know me, I deconstruct the human experience. So I drop off the belief systems, the cultures, the concepts, the ideas, on a personal level. And what we're all experiencing now is like, history is not true. We're now finding out that's not true. So that's the collectives doing it exactly at the same time.
Yeah.
Faye, what do you think about Ryder's analogy with past lives, or what's your take on this one?
I think that we all experience past lives because we have to experience everything in order for our consciousness to grow. And that what Chris said, I went with it, like, what is fear? Well, to me, fear is what pushes us on.
Yes.
Because fear is the ultimate weapon.
Yes.
If you call it a weapon, that pushes us forward. Because if you were standing still and then somebody comes at the back of you and causes fear, then you want to run away. So it propels you forward. Fear does, because it's such a powerful energy. But like Chris said, with love and overcoming, that can build a barrier. But also, I think you have to have lots of, I can't think of a word for it. You have to have a lot of awareness to actually contact what's coming in. It's like when you get contact from the ETs, and like you were saying, at first it's terrifying, but then after a while it just becomes the normal. And I think when we come back from past lives, we experience fear in different ways, because we're experiencing it from a different point of view, or a different life altogether.
I mean, I will add on that, and I like your analogy of fear pushing us forward. I at the moment, I don't have fear, but I'm of what's going on, but I'm aware of that it's fear. It's a fear-based energy that's pushing humanity, which is pushing the individual one within for the awakening, for the waking up to who they are. Ryder, I want to throw this one at you. So that's my analogy, that what's going on, we can call it fascism, we can call it whatever you can call it. It doesn't really matter. We know what's going on. We've seen it going on in other countries around the world. It's there. It's here now. There's no going back. We're at the birthing canal, okay? What can you add to this conversation about this fear and what them Chris and Faith spoken about now?
Well, it was kind of like what Faye just said, is about the awareness, right? We can actually feel all of this happening within our body. Our body responds to all of these different things, right? And it's about bringing the awareness to what part of your body is responding to it, right? So in my experience, this is the way that it works for me, and that's really all that I can talk about, is the things that I've experienced throughout my life, right? So whenever I'm feeling fear, right, that's in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the fear in my heart, right? And then whenever I feel something in my gut, that's my intuition,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's something telling me something that I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I think about it, or I feel it in my mind, then that's my consciousness, right? Because our body is always trying to communicate with us and tell us things all the time. It's just about actually bringing the awareness and knowing to that. You know, and I don't think a lot of people are even able to realize what's happening because they don't pay attention to their body enough. Our body's going to respond when something's healthy for us. Our body's going to respond when something's not healthy for us.
Mm-hmm.
When we get a feeling or something about someone, that feeling's normally true because we have that innate ability that we're born with. And this construct is trying to bring us down to destroy all of those spiritual abilities that we first came in with. They don't want us to have an intuition. They don't want us to be able to know what's right and what's wrong. They want to force feed everything upon us, right? But the best advice that I can give anyone that's listening to this is to pay attention, and pay attention to the way that your body is responding, because it's telling you absolutely everything that you need to know.
Okay, that's a wow, another wow. We're getting there. Robert, anything to add on this? You know, he's the psychotherapist. He must think we're all, you know. Anyway, do go on, Robert, darling.
No, I really like what Ryder had to say in terms of the body awareness. I mean, in terms of trauma, I mean, what could be more terrifying than some form of trauma? What could be more fear-inducing than trauma?
Yeah.
And there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, and that's sort of a classic in the trauma literature that speaks about somatic therapies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I work with all the time in terms of breathing,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of helping people like through panic attacks in a mindful way, where they're just observing, where they're in their minds, again, not in their hearts or
Mm-hmm.
their gut, where they're experiencing that kind of fear. So yeah, I think that's a really important point in understanding how fear manifests with people. With animals, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
I don't know if angels are afraid of anything. You know, I don't know. I haven't talked to one recently. So,
I knew you'd crack a joke somewhere. I knew you'd bring it in.
oh, you got to, right? But I mean, there's different levels.
Be Italian. Come on.
There's different levels of being. So, what scares a dog doesn't scare humans.
Yeah.
A dog could be scared of a siren. We know what a siren is.
Okay.
There are things in this universe that scare us that other beings are not scared of because they have an understanding. So the different levels of being play into it. The embodiment of human beings in a physical body, you know, has a lot to do with how we experience fear.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting back to the whole, I'm very, very much interested in, you know, reincarnation, karma, and I like the way Ryder describes it as a fracturing, because that it is a fracturing. I mean, we don't come into this life with a full awareness of our previous lives. I think that's what we're developing towards, however.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, if we knew everything about our past lives, then it would, to some degree, it would take away free choice,
Mm-hmm.
or would limit free choice. Let's say we did someone wrong in a past life, you know, in whatever way.
Yeah, you murdered me in a past life, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you probably deserved it, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So let's say I come into this lifetime and I encounter you.
Yeah.
If I knew consciously what that past event was, it would be very obvious what I need to do.
Kill me before I kill you, because I know as well.
Well, yeah, I think the idea is to have a different experience with that individual. So if you wrong them in some way, you have an opportunity to rectify that. And that's how a lot of spiritual systems view karma, that it's not punitive. You're not punished. It's not eye for an eye. It's you're given an opportunity to help someone that harmed you before, or vice versa. So if we had full awareness, if we reached that point, would we really have? Would we be making any sort of moral choices? So that's one side of it. The other side of it is definitely feeling like a stranger in a strange land, or this kind of Alice in Wonderland feeling that we have as human beings. Like, why are we here? Like, what is going on here? So there's that level of confusion that definitely creates fear and makes us question, the meaning of life. Does this have any purpose?
Okay.
So I don't know. It's beyond my wisdom to completely figure that out, but I think it's a really interesting thing to explore. Just the nature of past lives and why we have past lives, how to work with that material. I think making it conscious is the ultimate goal.
I mean, if you could spiritualize what we call in brackets past lives, obviously you know where I come from, the non-duality aspect. But I'm loving this because it's taken us to the point now. If I throw out a suggestion to you, I'm not saying it's true because I have no idea what's going on, and my truth more likely is going to change by the end of this podcast. Let's say we run with whether we call I do use the word fractalize. We're fractalizing, we're experiencing all things at all times, different timelines. I've actually seen myself from another timeline. She was actually more shocked than I was, believe it or not. So let's say this is the truth. Let's just say for now. And it's all these past lives. Now, but at this moment in time, we are talking about getting out of it. So if we just deconstruct that question and the fact that we are now consciously aware enough, we've had enough, it's got to suggest, has it not, that I think we're out of it already, but that's just my truth at the moment. It's got to suggest that even by this conversation, we are coming out of the loop of the past lives, or I call it fractalization. What do you think about that one? And that would inspire the spirit, would it not, with the hope that, as your fear rider, I got to do it again. That's not my truth. Been there, done it and did it, got the badges, I'm off as soon as I can go, so to speak. And it's a knowing, it's not just me, it's a knowing. So let's say this is the case, that consciousness in its singularity and the collective is finished the cycle of the 3D polarity experience. And conversations like this and all the etchings you're all getting, downloads for those that don't know Robert's new language, are now awakening you, expanding your consciousness to end this cycle. What if we start there? How do you feel about that, Chris?
I think that's an excellent place to start. And even going to the aspects that we could possibly, we control our own destiny, we control our own reality, we can manifest what we want to experience in life. I think that one of the solutions for fear is knowing that we can do this, and knowing that the controllers, the elites, the ones in control, the ones poisoning us, the ones that want to keep us down, it's still us.
Yes.
I mean, it's still us. We're still the ones doing that. I go to the store and I look at somebody, beating their kid or being an asshole to somebody. I'm like, oh man, that's me being a real dick today, excuse my language. But if we can look at it like that, I think that could be a way to kind of collectively turn around everybody's way of thinking, to just know that we are all one, and this is the kind of course that things need to take and it's all connected.
Wow, I like that. Say
Hmm.
your contribution.
Yeah, I agree with what Christy's just said, and it is about moving on from being locked down, so to speak, not physically, but mentally locked down.
Yeah.
And you know, in order for us to expand and to move on, we have to understand how others are coping and how others feel about it, and like his analogy about the child in the store and that, and as we're growing and experiencing these new experiences, so better understanding's coming through, and we're not judging people.
No.
There's not so much judgment, there's more not necessarily accepting, but understanding where that person is, and where that person's coming from, rather than condemning and saying, oh, why are you doing that? You look at it now in a different way, and you can see that that person still has a lot of growing to do.
Exactly. I hear
in
you.
the world of love, and growing to do in the world of understanding. But as we said earlier on, everybody's at different stages now, and I do feel that some people have already gotten there more quickly than others. But then this is another question: have they chosen to be on that level? I don't know. All I know is that some are opened up more than others, or there's more understanding. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but if you go back to when Jesus was on the earth, I mean, he wasn't driven by fear. He was driven by love. But it was the fear that actually killed him in the end, wasn't it? That took his life. Because
other beings fear. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
So you know, it's a bit.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. Ryder, come back at that. I'm sure you will. Ryder, what do you think about what Chris and Faye has just said?
Sorry, it's freezing up a lot. I agree that everything that happens in our life and every situation that we're in is constantly reflecting back to us what we need to heal within ourselves. So whenever at the grocery store, more than likely that was something that he needed to heal within himself, because our reality is constantly showing us things that is normally wrong with us. And I wanted to touch back on what kind of Robert was saying, because he mentioned trauma. And trauma is a very big fear inducer. And I don't think a lot of people can really grasp what trauma, because trauma can be something super small. It doesn't have to be huge, right, to affect us for our entire life. And whenever something happens and we constantly replay that traumatic event in our mind and in our brain, we become that event, because that us replaying that traumatic event in our mind, our body doesn't know the difference between the event actually happening in real life or it not. So each time that we replay that in our mind, we're constantly manifesting that in our reality. And that's a big reason why people can't get over their traumas, because it's hard to go back and relive it and make peace with it and send it love and cut the cord with that trauma. Right? But that's really the first step in this entire process. And this is how I feel personally, that we get back a lot of our past life memories and get our recall so that we can escape. The first step is going back and taking care of all of your traumas that's happened to you.
Doing the work on yourself. Doing the work on yourself. That's what I call it. I love your analogy. I love that too. I'm going to bring in here something I want to throw into this conversation. I had it with someone the other day, and I don't know who it was because I'm just old and confused as I am. And my truth at the moment, my awareness at the moment is why human beings are complying to certain things and doing certain actions is for a major one reason is the fear of death. This is a human concept, not a consciousness concept, not a spiritual concept. It's the fear of death. So do you think, guys, if one could work on that, I mean, many, if you've had an experience with ET, if you've had a near-death experience or something like one of those, you come back, there is no fear of the death. And when there's no fear of death, then you don't follow illogical, stupid rules, basically. But if you do fear the death, if you do have that fear of death, because you're in that state of fear, that you will believe anything you're told. So I'm going to bring it all the way back now. What do you think about the major problem currently going on within consciousness in its singularity, humanity, is being caused by the fear of death? I'll throw that one in. What does anyone want to take that? Fear of death.
I don't think that is so much the fear of death, Gloria. I mean, that is a big reason and a big problem. But I think, again, it comes to traumatization. The way that they do it, they collectively traumatize a group of people, and then they can get in there and they can supplant certain thoughts, ideas, and beliefs through repetition, through showing certain things on the TV, certain callers, right? Because if you can, they figured that out with the MK Ultra mind control, right? On an individual level, they figured that out, that they can traumatize people through torture and all of these different things, and then they're able to go in and supplant certain thoughts and certain ideas, and then that being is going to believe it. And then what they did is they stopped the individual MK Ultra mind control, and they expanded it, and they did it collectively. And we've had these collective traumatizations for decades now. 9/11 was a huge one, right? It got everyone programmed into us against them kind of mentality, right? And every time any event happened after 9/11, a shooting or a bomb or whatever, all they had to do was throw up terrorism on the television screen, and that got people triggered right back into the events of 9/11. And that's exactly what's happening now with the current situation on the planet. It's a collective traumatization. Right. So then every subsequent year after this year, all they have to do is be like, well, there's a new variant, there's a new other boogie going around, and that's going to get everyone triggered right back, and they're going to go along with it because they've been collectively traumatized. And we have to work through that on a collective level to be able to get.
Okay. So could I add to that and throw it out there? So if you didn't have an individual didn't have a fear of death, and we'll call them the dark side, or just use the dark side, doesn't matter. No one would comply to the dark side. So none of this would be happening, would it? Okay, none of it would be happening. So it's about, I mean, obviously we know it's about trying to awaken as many beings as possible to who they truly are. You just need a little door open. That's all you need. You get a switch in consciousness, go in to know thyself, the door opens and the fears start dropping, and then ultimately the fear of death. Let's go back to Jesus. I'm not religious either. However, I've seen him a few times this week for some reason. Again, it's Christ consciousness. That's just, it's a symbol. It's just, he never feared death. The man was tortured, nailed. That's torture. That's die slow for day after day, or was it 3 days, I think, and he never feared death. So I'm going to throw this back out there again. I'm holding this death card here because I really want this to be addressed. If we, Homo sapiens sapien, did not fear death, then they would say, I am not complying. No, I am not going to condemn my neighbor because they're not doing it. Yeah? If you don't fear death, you're not going to say, oh, I'll have that. And the reason you'd only have the boogie woogie, as Chris calls it, or whatever it's called, is because you fear you're going to die. You're right, though, Ryder. We've had it here. You know, if you don't do this, you are going to cause genocide, which is death. It's always about the frigging death card. So I want to come back, all right, and throw that back out there. I want to go to Robert next, the psychotherapist, by the way, who knows everything. He is God, by the way. Do you know what I mean? Not Italian God, though. He's not Italian. Know it. He's a fraud. What do you think about that?
Can I comment now?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think that kind of that fear of death is significant. I think it's at the root of manipulating a lot of human behavior.
Yeah.
But I think another window into that is a fear of connection. I think one reason why we're divided up into tribes, nations, black versus white, male versus female. Right now, I think the biggest danger right now is the kind of the balkanization of humanity, dividing us up into groups that fight and hate each other. And that's always been there to some degree, but now it's really being accentuated. That's an old aspect of humanity. The newer aspect of humanity is what we're talking about: the mutual empathy, the awareness of oneness, the awareness of difference. The awareness that we're all different, but we're all one. That's the key thing. And being able to, to see a child being mistreated in a store and not judge.
Yes.
I think, what Faye said and what Chris said is really, really important. So I think that's what we're moving towards. We're moving away from tribalism. There are forces that are trying to keep us stuck in tribalism, in blood connections and nationalism and all the nonsense that's out there on both sides, the so-called left and the right. I mean, it's a fictional battle going on that's just being manipulated. So I think it's a human fear of connection, of understanding our fellow man, and that fear has been has been nurtured for hundreds of years. Getting to know someone of a different race, getting to know someone of a different nationality. I think that is more front and center right now in terms of the challenge for humanity than our fear of death. The fear of death is kind of the ultimate card, though. I mean, like you said, the genocide, dying in a terrorist attack, all these images we have of our mortality reinforces this idea that we have to fight, we have to battle with each other. But
do you agree, though? Do you agree? You don't have to agree. I'm just throwing out there this analogy. If we collectively, there's many individually that don't fear death now, billions. Especially in India, by the way, because they know they're all gods. So do you think if humanity, especially in the Western world, became aware of who they truly were, conscious being having a human experience, they would have no fear of the death, obviously, then all of this would just stop, would it not? Because they wouldn't comply.
Well, that's the hope. I mean, I think we have the free will to do that. There's nothing stopping everyone from getting up tomorrow morning and saying, I'm not going to fight. I'm going to put my gun down if I'm a soldier. What keeps us stuck in that, or is layers and layers of cultural conditioning. And, ultimately, I think the fear of death is the ultimate fear. But I think that there are layers of fears, layers of trauma that have been created that keep us in this loop, keep us in this cultural loop.
I hear you on that one, but the current goings on, I mean, I know it's been going on for thousands of years, and since 9/11, I totally concur with Ryder. But currently, the one thing that's turning Homo sapiens sapien into zombies I use that in a very positive way, is the fear of death. The whole program, this program, the 9/11, if we don't do this, they're going to do that to us. Okay, that was against. But this now is, if you don't do this, you're going to kill humanity. It is the fear of death.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fear of death. It's a fear of, let's say, Arab terrorists killing us. So we have to hate Arabs. All Arabs are, are terrorists, and all Mexicans are rapists, and all this other nonsense.
Yeah, but the fact is, we can't go hating the bug. Does that make sense to you? Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, we can hate the Arabs. No, we can't. Do you know what I mean? They would say, hate the Arabs, they're terrorists. Hate this, they're that. But I'm trying to pull it round. We can't hate this bug. I'm not going to give it. I'm not even going to give it the time, my energy to speak its name. That's going around since 2020. The bug. We can't hate that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, but we can. But we can hate. But we can hate the people who aren't wearing masks, or we can hate the people who are wearing masks.
Yeah,
we can hate the people who are vaccinated.
Robert,
we can hate the people who aren't vaccinated.
Yeah,
that's the layer. That's where they're trying to. They're trying to pit us against each other. Yeah. Of course, we're all afraid ultimately of death. Some, I think, are more afraid of death than others.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there are a lot of people, I agree, who aren't afraid of death. And I think that the more people who are able to let go of that ultimate fear, the healthier we're going to be.
Oh, yeah.
But the core of the phenomena that's going on right now around COVID, and I'll say the word COVID, is trying to divide people up into these camps and creating this war between people. And the polarization, it's another lever to polarize people. And there very well may be a biological bug out there. It seems to be. I mean, it seems to be killing people, whether it was manufactured, whether it escaped, whatever. It doesn't mean that that's a hoax, obviously, because people are dying from it. It's what's being created around it and how it's being handled, how it's being portrayed in the media, how people are, enraged at each other over how to deal with the situation rather than developing some sort of mutual empathy.
So what we need is more Chris's in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Right. We saw that. Hold on. We're not going to go down that road yet. Just you zip it for a moment. I forgot what I was going to say. Ryder, would you stop it? You've got detention now and you stay after class, all right? Stop that confusing me. It doesn't take much. I wanted to go to Chris. You see, I had this flow going there and Ryder just picked it up. Right. Chris, can we come back to the fear, all right?
I can. I'm glad you did.
We're not going to say if it is. All right, guys. Ryder says it's all a hoax. I'm not stopping. It's his truth. Everyone's got their own truth, but he just threw me. I was flowing there, the good interviewer, yeah? And Ryder just fucked that up, right? So detention.
Sorry, Gloria. I didn't mean for everyone to get their attention drawn to that.
Yes, you did. You little instigator. Now, just mute yourself now. I'll come to you in a minute. Definitely. Oh, what? Chris, come back. So, Chris, going on this fear, what can you add to the current conversation? How do you feel that if the more beings that awoke to their true self, would start to see, like your analogy you gave of the boy down the shop, would you like to go deeper down that road, please? What do you think we could just do tomorrow, as Robert said? Get up tomorrow and do it.
Well, I like to speak on my own personal experience with this. I think that one of the simplest answers that's worked for me is to just not participate in what they're trying to sell us. Just live my life like I'm happy, I'm normal, this is great. I'm, everything in my life is wonderful, and it is. I mean, I don't even have to watch the news. I don't have to pay attention to anything going on around me. My life is good. And I think if everyone acted as if their life is good and everything is fine, it would manifest around them. I can, that's just my own truth. That's what I've been living, and that's what's worked for me so far. And it may work for someone else. I don't know, but it works pretty damn good.
It works for me. I don't have a TV. Never watched TV in years. I do see the news that comes up on the internet. I don't live, it's just my truth. I get on with my reality here, and I'm aware that I create my reality. I'm aware what I put my attention on, I will attract into my reality. I'm not saying it's not going on. It is going on. It's a human experience, but I'm aware of it. So I don't get attached to it. At the very beginning in 2020, I had to look at the laws to obviously not get myself arrested. So I couldn't go. The British law was you have to go outside to have sex. I can say it again, not inside, because you're, give the bug. So I couldn't do, anyway, you know what I mean? But I just aware of what are the rules and regulations. Now in UK, I can't fly anywhere. That's fine. I won't fly anywhere. I'll just visit people in their dreams and have a blast there. So I come from that, but not everyone can or does. And why I'm going down this road is not everyone is an experiencer of an ET or dimensional being or past lives or as intelligent as our academic Robert, who, because he's a psychotherapist, he knows the psychology of the mind, of the human mind, obviously. I just like to insult him. It makes me feel good because he insults me. So can we take it now, with all that we've got between us, and we've all come from different truths, different avenues, a bit here and a bit there, what do you think we can do to, I want to say speed it up. Robert knows I'm a speedboat. I'm gone, I'm out of here. What do you think, if for the audience listening, because I really want this to deal with the fears that everyone's experiencing. We have like the wonderful Ryder and Chris and all that speak out on the platforms to educate people, to inform them, but they seem to be not listening like this, so to speak. So I'm going to come, what can we offer from this panel to anyone who wants to listen, where to go next, how to get out of this reality, to a better life or a better future, or if they're on the ascension path, whatever your truth is. You don't have to be on ascension path. You don't have to wake up, but you can still have a beautiful human experience. So it's not just for spiritual people, because this is for the whole of humanity. So what advice would you give, Ryder?
Sorry, Gloria, my internet's really bad and it's freezing up. I think I got your question. So the way that we can make a difference and change on an individual level is changing our perspective, right? Because perspective is everything in this reality, right? And in the way that we are so controlled and so manipulated is because they are manipulating the perception of the mass consciousness on the planet. That's the way they do it. It's done through the TV. It's done through the media. It's done through our phones. It's done through the internet. It's done through social media. It's all to manipulate your perception, to get you living in an illusionary reality that they have shepherded for you to be a part of.
Yeah.
Right? So how we get out of that is we change our perception. Whatever nonsense and bullshit they're feeding us, we think and do the opposite, because 9 times out of 10, I've found the opposite thing of what they're pushing is true.
So if they say it's black,
then it's down.
So if they say it's black, it's white. If they say it's up, it's down. That's what you're
basically. And what they've done, Gloria, too, is, I'm just going to talk on the thing that we were kind of talking about before this, because I think that it's important. I'm not going to mention any names.
Come back.
They have the perceptions of the collective consciousness down to such a degree to where an event doesn't even have to be real.
Yeah.
As long as enough people believe that it is.
Yeah.
And that's the way they get away with all of the propaganda and whatever world events or whatever thing that they're trying to perpetuate is because they manipulate the perception around it, getting people to believe in it, because our belief in something is the strongest thing that we have on the planet.
Well, these conscious beings, we call them the dark side, I mean, they are masters of the law of attraction. They are master magicians. They know how to bring in the illusions and to create a false perception, false reality. Those that are spiritually awake and aware go on the positive side. Hence, they create the reality they want, but they don't use it to harm another being because they are awakened to that. But these guys, of course, they do. They can. It's been going on for tens of thousands of years, or hundreds of thousands, more likely. So I'm aware of that. So give us another one. Having that awareness, what would you advise people to do? You know, for example, I don't know. There's talk now that we're going to have to. There will be a future lockdown because of climate change. Okay.
Well,
what should people do to change?
I think again, the first thing, Gloria, is awareness, and being controlled and manipulated. And I've only ran into a few people that know what the term egregore means, right? And if people don't know what the term egregore is, Google it, like the people listening. Google the term egregore, because egregore is the basis of our reality and how our reality works. Basically, whatever we feed, whatever we give our thoughts and our beliefs into, then becomes a part of our reality. So we have to watch what we're feeding and what we're giving our thoughts, ideas, and beliefs behind, because that in turn trickles down into our reality. Again, making something that might not be real seem to be real. And that's the way that I believe personally everything works in our reality. It works that way with religion. It works that way with the media, anything that they're trying to push. It's all egregorical, and our thoughts, ideas, and beliefs is what is constantly pushing it and making it a reality in our personal world.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Faith.
I go with Chris, and you know, we don't have to be in it. And there's one word that's not been used, and that's choice.
Yeah. And
we all have choices. Some of us are stronger than others when it comes to choices, but if we're going to drink all this in, then we're excluding ourselves from having choice. We're drinking it in, and it's becoming who we are rather than choosing who we want to be or choosing the life that we want for ourselves. Because while all this manipulation, or whatever you want to call it, is going on, nature and animals and that are just carrying on. All we have to do is just be. That's all we have to do is be. And the more we allow things to influence us, then the more the fear grows. So, like I said, we have choice. And we can choose to do that, or we can choose to live the life we want to. But then it's really difficult to get everyone to understand that, because it's bombarded from media. Like you say, the news comes on and it's do this, do that. This is going to escalate, this, that, and the other. And then, of course, the fear builds up again. But if we just be who we are and use our choices, follow the roads that fit in with how we want to live our lives, then
I think choice. No, I agree. I always say, you know, in my groups, you have a choice. Make a choice. Whatever reality you choose, make the choice and choose that reality. So I do like that. So choice is a good one. Robert, my love, what can you contribute to this?
Well, I think a couple of things that we talked about are really critical. One is coming from a place of empathy and trying to be non-judgmental towards ourselves and towards other people as much as possible.
Yeah.
That frees us up to be much more joyful beings if we embrace that. So yeah, I think choice, that is a choice. How we wake up and take on every day, every moment is a conscious choice, rather than being swayed by all of the nonsense that's going on. And I certainly, we talked about this. I've talked about the dark side, however you want to call it. I've worked with a couple of people who are connected to MK Ultra, so I'm very aware of some of the processes there and how sophisticated they become. So I think discernment is another key word to understand what's real and what isn't. The way I look at it is this: 9/11 was a real event. Who was behind it and who created it is a whole nother story. The same with the JFK assassination, the same with Pearl Harbor. Those are the major traumas in American history. Those are real events. COVID is another one. So I'd be careful not to give into the idea that these things didn't happen, but they are being engineered. Understanding the fact that these are being engineered either subtly or not so subtly, and being able to discern that, I think, is really important. Otherwise,
brilliant. Discernment, yes, another one. Choice, discernment. Brilliant.
Otherwise, it's possible to look foolish and to deny that something's happening when it really is.
It is.
But we need to get under the hood and understand who's behind it, not deny that it's happening. If you understand what I'm saying.
I hear you.
But I think that trauma is, that's again been one of the themes here. Being able to, there's a concept called diffusion in therapy. It really comes from kind of the Buddhist concept of non-attachment, and that's diffusing from fear, diffusing from negative emotions, diffusing from narratives that we create in our head, and just allowing ourselves to be. It's a form of mindfulness where events happen around us. It's not that we don't care. If someone's in need, we'll help them. We're not robots, and we're not numb to what's going on. But not be invested in the outcome. But being able to allow ourselves to be our own individual beings. And I think that's part of what Chris and Faye were talking about. I think those.
That's really good. Faye brought in the choice. You brought in discernment. Two major things that we all need to use daily, because we're all going through this together, the experience. But that's, anything else you want to add to that before I go to Chris?
Again, I think the other thing that stands out to me, that's part of this whole discussion, is connection. Is this feeling of oneness, not this amorphous feeling, oh, we're all one, but being kind of the example that Chris gave, being able to come from a non-judgmental place when you see someone that's filled with anger or hurt, and being able to relate to that as another human being, and enhancing our connections with each other, breaking through these divisions that are being created for us. Again, the black and white, the male, female, the Chinese American, all of these different connections that are being engineered to keep us to limit our consciousness. Perhaps it's a test for us, but whether it's a test or whether there's this is some form of pure reality doesn't really matter to me. It's how we individually deal with it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, it does. Chris, coming to you.
Well, I think that when it comes to creating our best future and our best reality for what's coming up, I think that if people take the first step, and each and every one of us, we took the step to come here today and to share our truth and our perspective from our different truths and different sides of the world and our different experiences and realities, but we all came together here to share our different perspectives. And I think if more people took the steps to kind of do the things that they feel they need to do right now, come into themselves, come into their calling, if they feel like they need to share information, if they feel like they need to research more information, do it. Don't hold yourself back anymore because of, like we're talking about, fear, the big inhibitor that we can come back to. I think that if we can get rid of that, people can come into their own and do these things that they feel would help themselves, help humanity, help everybody develop, and it would be kind of like a contagious ongoing chain reaction. And another thing about being able to just remove yourselves and not participate from what's going on, I report on this BS like every week. You know, I can come here and talk about this stuff, but then I can separate from it and completely remove myself and forget about it an hour later like it never happened. And I think that's key too, to be able to separate yourself from the nonsense that's going on and focus on self and the important things.
Yeah, that's wonderful too. Anyone want to come back on this? Ryder, do you want to come back on this? Ryder.
Yeah, I agree with what Chris said for sure. That we are not living up to our full capabilities and our full potential, because I think a lot of it comes down to us being afraid to be who we are.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've been engulfed into this social conditioning, social programming so far that a lot of people just go on autopilot. They don't have critical thinking or common sense, right? They just go along with what everyone be different. They're afraid to step outside of the box. They're afraid to do look like a weirdo or look stupid or look foolish, and that's not the right way to be, because when you're not being that way, you're not being real to you. You have to be a real individual and talk about what's on your mind. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about what you're talking about, as long as you're speaking your truth, right, and what resonates with you.
Yeah.
And we've built this fake freaking society all around us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's fakeness radiating off of everyone, and you can see it.
Mm.
You can see when someone's being truthful to what they believe, and you can see when people aren't. You know, it's very easy to discern that, but that discernment they're trying to get us away from, to where we don't know what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, what's right for you. But it all comes down to you as an individual.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hear you. And then you have the individual,
and not being afraid to take on other people's thoughts, ideas, and beliefs, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to take them all on as your own, right? But you can observe them.
Yeah.
And you can be like, okay, well, that sounds like it could be possible or whatever, and you can stick it in your back pocket and think about it later, right? But if it doesn't resonate with you, then let it go.
Exactly. I'll come off this tonight, and I'll be going through my head or rewatch it. I go, oh. And I'm so used to, my truth never stays permanent. As I expand it, I go, oh. And you need discernment. You need to step outside the box. You need to open your mind. You need to just shut the fudge up and listen to another being talk, apart from those, if you know what I mean. Like, where you're quite right, what the conversation we're having tonight, you can see we've all got slightly different truths, but there's something that's underlining all of us here that does underline the whole of our communities, our countries, and the whole of humanity. We need to talk. We need to go out there, smile, say hello, how are you? I don't care if you've been jabbed or not jabbed. It doesn't make no difference in my reality what you do. you know. So we need to do more and bring us together, which we spoke about earlier on, the empathy, the love, the compassion. And I like, you know, Chris's analogy of, you know, when he looked at the child, that's me. I have a very similar reality. I see it as me in the oneness, you know, I'm seeing it, it's teaching me something. Them sort of things. Faye, do you have anything to add to this? Faye, hello.
No, I didn't have my finger on the right button then.
You've been on them GPs, haven't you? I know.
I think there's a social consciousness as well, where people tend not to talk out because of close families' reaction to what they may say, or even the boss who you work for, and it all goes down to all those different things. And there's lots of things that we discuss with other people which we wouldn't discuss with the person closest to us. And so I think a lot of that comes into it as well, that stops people talking. But the thing that people talk about the most is when somebody has the same or similar experience. And then it's like when me and you met, Gloria, and we you know, it just went on and on and on.
We knew in each other's human life, didn't we?
We understood each other where it was all coming from. And when you get to that point, then it's so much easier to open it all up. But the thing is, the more we talk about things like you were saying, then the more it opens up. Yeah. And we've got to be brave. We've got to go, what have we got to hide?
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because as soon as you've dropped that bombshell, oh, this so happened to me, or this happened, then the thinking thing starts, and then they start connecting things that happen to them. And so the connection begins, doesn't it?
Yeah. And obviously, you know, Robert's raised this, Chris has raised this. It's about, you know, the dark side, these beings, whatever, Trevor, forcing us apart. But humanity, as the human conscious, have the human experience, we are empathic by our true nature. Empathic, we are loving, we are considerate. You know, we as human beings will die trying to save the life of another. Yeah, I mean, the quality that the human being has, they don't even know anymore. And I do agree with Ryder. I'm fully aware of MK Ultra and all of that. I do realize how the programming, I'm aware of that. But in my case, what's happening now is, my truth is, it's the end of, if you believe in reincarnation, it's the end of programming, it's the end, whatever, Ryder, it's the end. We're coming out. Well, I think we're out. This is just the leftovers, the scrags after giving birth. And I think if we can just receive things, or maybe that is possible. Maybe I do have a choice, or it's okay. I mean, it was a case a few months ago, we heard these people saying, I think those that have been vaccinated should wear the masks because they're now the carriers. And I'm thinking, you're still doing it. You're still doing it. The divide, you know, I mean, so we have to bring in this topic. I know we've got to be careful how we word it or we get taken down, but we need to be able to talk about this in an empathic and compassionate way. Does that make sense? It's coming together now that the division is so great and the pressure is so great. My hope is that, as you spoke about, in your case, it was Faye, you spoke about before with me about the shadow, you know, the opposites coming in, and we got to mention the ET coming in as well. To me, that it's going to push and push, and it's going to be a bit dark soon. It's going to go there. It has to go there in the birth canal. But if we can hang on to who we truly are, keep having these conversations, no one's right, no one's wrong. We're exploring consciousness. That's who we are. We have never in our whole human experience ever explored our consciousness. We've never used discernment about our consciousness. We put it outside to discern this, that, regulations, what makes me happy, what's me. So this is the first time we're having a conversation about something that we don't normally speak about, which I think is a beautiful platform to start things off. I wanted one more thing to ask before we close the podcast is we've got to bring ET in because we just have to. We've got a bit of an echo, Chris, haven't we? We've got to bring ET in.
Yeah, if everyone could just mute their microphone if you're not speaking, please.
Yeah, getting an echo. Maybe the visitors are back. Now, obviously, we spoke in the individual podcasts. I'll start with Chris because he's unmuted. ET now is these beings, ET or whatever you wish to call them, it really doesn't matter, are in our 3D reality now as we go through this, okay? Before I ask you the question, what is their relevance whilst this is going on now, please remember that or I'll forget. In my group this week, the most amazing things come out of members of the group. All I can say is they are now starting to see that these beings are manifesting in their reality and they're not experiences per se. So I'm talking about it's all happening now. Chris, what is the relation? What's going on with ET now as we go down this, I call it the birth canal.
Well, we spoke about this whenever I was speaking to you last time on Inception. You spoke about it on my show.
Yeah.
I have just like you, a constantly evolving view of what's happening with ET and the nature of our reality. Well, right now, currently, I believe that extraterrestrials, or what we perceive as these beings, are possibly more of spiritual entities connected to our personal selves. I think that they're more of guides for us, and they might appear to what is easiest for us to comprehend and understand at the time. There's a lot of talk about ETs and UFO in the mainstream. Maybe that's easier for people to see than, angels or four-eyed boogity-boogities or whatever shows up, So that's just my truth right now. I think it's, in a way, it's our guides waking us up and saying, hey, you got to get your stuff together because it's about to get a little difficult. So that's just my truth at the moment.
No, I mean, I resonate with your truth. I'd use different words. I could say, it's a fractal of me, my consciousness, my future self, whatever, Trevor, it really doesn't matter. But my truth at the moment is on that. It's like, wake the fudge up now. And I've got to say, the etchings coming in, and I can't even the stuff that's coming in is unbelievable. If it's coming into my consciousness, it's going to, it's like, or some people use the terminology, if you're a medium, you know about it, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, is now spirit, as Robert said. For me, spirit and matter is verging as one. Now, we're at the end. We're done. No more past lives. No more. It is it. So I'm similar to you with the ET or beings. Faye, I've got to come to you. What's your answer to this one?
Well, I think that we're all, as we've said all along, we're all one. And the ETs, when they first come in, are something different to us. Yeah. But now, once you work with them and you get to know them, they aren't different.
Yeah.
They bring different knowledge, and I believe that we're not only learning off them, but they're learning off of us as well, because the two bands have to come together to create the great.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
So I feel very privileged that I've had these experiences, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. That to be contacted and then to feel the greatness of what comes after the fear.
Yes.
Is just the bee's knees.
It is the bee's knees. I'm believe it or not, in all the shit that's going on, I'm exactly where I should be. The time is now, and it's a privilege and an honor. And yeah, I agreed. But hey ho, but I got to meet you guys. I love that one. Thank you for your truth, Robert.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. That's good. Don't speak Irish, will you? Now, come on.
The question is, what are the UFO entities?
Now, can we drop the UFO? We know the ET. You know the beings, experiencers have these ETs.
Right.
They're hit now. We've gone through over an hour of the critical times consciousness is in at the moment, but they're here with us, and they're more and more. And they're blending more and more, even with non-spiritual people. So why do you think, what do you think their contribution is? Who are they? Again, Chris says it's a part of him. I have a very similar analogy. What do you think is going on assisting us?
I think I tend to agree that a lot, perhaps all of these entities are guides. And they're here to teach us lessons. I think that initially people do react. Most people react in a traumatic way, understandably. I mean, the experiences I had were when I was 9 years old, so I had no frame of reference. As old as I am, before all the the abduction stuff came out, there was nothing even to read about it. It was pretty frightening. I look at it differently now. I do think that if these are part of us, and human beings have a shadow, then there's going to be a negative elements. There's going to be elements of hindrance. There's going to be elements that are going to test us too. I don't think they're all benign, whether they're from our physical dimension or interdimensional beings, doesn't really matter. So I think it comes down to how we deal with life, how we deal with them, how we interpret them. We can see them in an evil light. We can see them as torturers, or we can see them as teaching us something. Yeah. So I think, to your point, I think we are at a crossroads, an inflection point, whatever you want to call it, where hopefully all people will kind of break out of the shell that we're in right now, to a higher, deeper consciousness, broader consciousness, whatever you want to call it. A merging of spirit and matter is how I look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully all beings can. I think the potential is there for everyone to be able to do that. If you're human, you have that potential. There aren't any special people. We're not special because we have more or less interaction with whatever these intelligences are. I think everyone in their own way interacts with those beings in that dimension. We all do that when we sleep. I mean, that's what part of what dreams are about, as we've discussed. So yeah, I think that this is a time where, as every major point in history, human spiritual development, I think we can go either way. And I think that
it's not for me. It's not a human ascension. It's a spiritual awakening. It's just nothing to do with the physical, but it's a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
I'm an optimist is the word. I don't like the word positive no more. Can we erase that? Because I'm sick of hearing positive. I don't want that word anymore either. I'm an optimist. It's going to get difficult. It has to get difficult in the birthing canal, but it's all going to be good at the end. It's still.
Yeah, I really love that analogy of birth. I mean, it seems so obvious, but the way
it's as simple as that. Just shows you for a new life going through. And for those that haven't heard it, I've got to do it again. I put the analogy of the experience we're all collectively going through is, if you're a woman and had a child, you'll know. When you're in labor, sorry, ma'am. Your back is like someone's got a razor blade or Stanley knife and slicing you and stabbing you. Your stomach's got hot coals in it burning. You're the closest to death you ever get. There is no pain, you can't even describe it. And you go through this, it seems like an eternity. You nearly go unconscious. It's just torture. And then all of a sudden it stops. And then life and breath of a newborn, a new human. And you fall in love. And the whole reality shifts. You play the role as the parent, okay? And I use that analogy with what's going on at the moment. And we're now in the birth canal. We're down there. We're ready. We humanity, even going back to Ryder's truth about we've done the human experience of reincarnation or at the same time in all places, not past lives, it's all in the now, but we've done that. We've done it, we've been there, we've got the scars, we've got the memories. We're now dealing with all the traumas. We're bringing them up, dealing. Chris looked at someone and said, that's me. That's what doing the work, yeah? That's my analogy of the birth canal, and we're nearly there. And I'm glad you like that, Robert. All right, thank you. I'll send you a check in the post. Okay. Ryder. I'm scared to ask Ryder. He's going to say something. He's going to... Go on, Ryder. Last one speaks, Ryder.
Well, I guess it depends on what species and what race of ET.
Oh, don't freeze now.
There's many different species of each one of those ones that I just said, and that's not even getting close to how many of them they are, right? So I think it's kind of dangerous to put a blanket on all of them, right? Because they're not all good and they're not all bad. There are negative ones that do not have humans' best interests, that are abducting people and getting their genetic material, and they are geneticists. They are not here for us. They do not have humanity's best interests. And then you have other ones that do want our best interest, the ones that do want us to consciously expand and grow spiritually and develop and become who we're truly supposed to be. And I think that that's a very hard differentiating factor, because a lot of these ETs are pretending like they are of love and light when they are the exact opposite.
Can we ban love and light as well? I don't like them words anymore. I want to get rid of them as well.
Here.
Ban that, Chris, please, Robert.
I got it. I'm taking care of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go on. Go on, Ryder. Do go on. Sorry.
No, it's just that there's so many different agendas with each one of these groups, and
can we, Ryder? Can we?
9 times out of 10, they are never going to tell you exactly what they're trying to do. Okay,
can we deal with then? I'm not letting you go on this one. You can back up here. I'm not letting you go. You get etchings, downloads. So it's coming. That is coming from another conscious being to you. Yeah, that's coming in. So that's not a negative connection there, is it? So can we just talk on your personal level? Forget whole of humanity. Forget Chris. No, forget Robert, actually. Let's forget all about Robert. On your personal level, this conscious being, whatever it is, ET, guide, higher self, just for you, what's going on between you and this being? How is it helping? What do you understand?
Well, that's the thing, Gloria, is that I don't know if it's actually something that's coming from outside of me, because I've really been kind of going through that in my mind and talking to someone that I really
so it could be coming from
trust, that I think is very connected. And I think that downloads and spiritual downloads has been misinterpreted, that it's actually coming from outside of us. And I've been reevaluating that whole concept. And I'm becoming to believe that it has nothing to do with outside of us. I actually think it's coming from us.
It's from you. It's coming, Ryder. From you.
Yeah.
You. Yeah. No, I resonate.
Whether that be your higher self or whether that be a past life recall or something of that nature, it's not something from outside of you, right? See, we have this screwed up concept outside of ourselves for solutions and answers to our problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that program has ran forever. Religion is really what started that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Constantly looking outside of yourself for someone to come and save you has developed a savior complex on the planet, right? And then we look at these ETs and these other beings to like that they're going to come and help us and that they're going to come and do something for us and that they're going to save us. Yeah, they might actually come and help, some of them, and they might assist us, but they're not going to do anything for us, right? That's up to us. We have to do that. We have to make the conscious decision. We have to make that choice, right? They're not going to come in here because the real ones, the ones that are actually good, are not going to violate our free will because they are of highest integrity.
Yeah.
The only way that they can intervene and help assist is if we ask them to intervene and help assist.
Mm-hmm. I love it. No, I love it. I knew I'd get a good one from Ryder. Do you want to come back? I'm going to take a toilet break. Forbidden knowledge news. No, it's not forbidden knowledge news. It's Chris. Don't you dare flip it. If you'd like to take over, would you like to pose a question while I just take a toilet?
Well, maybe I could just get a little open discussion going. Keeping with the extraterrestrial theme, saying that these, there are beings outside of ourselves, possibly. Let's just go with, that there could be malevolent reptilians or insectoid beings that are coming here to do experiments on us. Is that still the same part of this one source collective consciousness, if they are just more of negative entities and they're more concentrated from this kind of evil or dark side, or is it all still part of this same collective consciousness? What are your thoughts, Ryder?
Well, I think that there's first you'd have to ask the question, do they believe in right and wrong, right? Do they operate under the same belief systems and consequences that we do? Do they believe in karma, right? I really have no idea. But that would be a very good question to ask one of them or someone that someone's in contact with is what is their belief systems? What kind of system do they operate under? Because it seems like a lot of them are operating with impunity, right? They're just doing whatever they want. They're just coming in and abducting people, collecting their genetic material, semen, eggs, sperm, blood, tissue, whatever, without any kind of consequences. So I guess that would be another question to your question, Chris, is what kind of system do they operate under? Do they operate under a right and wrong system? Do they operate under a karmic cycle? I don't know.
Chris, Ryder, that was really deep. Now, that is to raise that. I would say no, they don't. But I'm saying the fact that you raised it. Anyone else want to go there? That was a great question, Chris. I heard it as I was walking along the corridor. And Ryder, that was a profound answer. Who says stuff like that? Well, before we go judging them, hello, Ryder. Maybe they don't work. Yeah, maybe. Do they have wrong and right? Do they? That's a really good area to go into. Excellent question. Excellent response, Ryder. Take Chris. Give me a break, Chris. I'm going to have a cigarette. Take it to Faye next. She's got something. You go, Chris. You go.
Yeah, well, Faye, what are your same thoughts on the same topic that we're just discussing? You're muted, Faye. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah. Going on the two different aspects of the ETs coming in, whether they're good or bad. Isn't that the same as what we're experiencing now? But in the environment we're in now, on planet Earth now, with good and bad coming in, are we connecting what's happening now with what's coming in? Because when Robert talks about separation, then it's separation again. There's good ones, there's bad ones. But what's good and what's bad is bad things that fear us, is bad things that maybe give us the idea of death. Is good things love, is good things that make us happy. Surely both of them have a significance, and both of them get different reactions, but both of them get a reaction, if you know where I'm going with that. So like, what is good, what is bad, or is there any such thing as good and bad, or is it just the way that we perceive things? So
right,
I don't know.
and
What
kind of
others think of that.
Going back to what I was saying originally, and Gloria and I had this discussion when she was on my show. Is it part of the same source consciousness as everything else? Gloria made the kind of analogy of this light bulb that's covered by a colander, and this one source of light emanates through thousands of holes, and that's us experiencing this consciousness. Are these more negative entities that are probably more focused towards the negative, the dark side? Are they from that same collective, just experiencing that side a little bit more,
Yeah.
What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, well, it gets us back to the question of, is there ultimate evil or ultimate good? I mean, human beings do horrible things to each other. We do horrible things to nature and animals. Are we evil? Some of our actions are evil. The same person who could kill a chicken could then save someone's life, or maybe save the life of another animal. So it's a very complex landscape. I like the colander analogy, the colander and light analogy. The one I use is like an ocean again. Consciousness, oneness. We're all part of the same ocean. We're all waves, but there are such a great variety of beings within the ocean, and some of them are, appear to be malevolent towards each other. Some of them are helpful towards each other. Some of them are symbiotic and they help each other. So I don't know, it's a very complex question. I think it's an important perspective on the whole UFO phenomena for sure, because it's definitely a paranormal and spiritual phenomena. It's not just a physical phenomena. That's the least of it. I do think this is all part of a battle between good and evil, between evolution and devolution. I don't know if the evil parts are just playing a role or if they're truly evil. There may be, just as Ryder said, there may be a lot of different agendas. I like the idea of, I think one way to probably the best way we can differentiate between the two is whether there's a coercive element, as Ryder said. Are they infringing upon our free will, or are they here in a sense with our permission? Are they here to develop a positive relationship with us? I mean, there's plenty of evidence for some sort of collection of genetic material. Like, what is the purpose of that? And there's sort of the negative, you could say, the more paranoid theories of Jacobs and Hopkins and other people. And I've connected that to Rudolf Steiner in my own research that point to some sort of malevolent agenda. But there's also the Mary Rodwell's work and Yvonne Smith and other people who make it just as good a case for the positive elements, the healing, the development of higher level cognitive abilities, empathy, telepathy, in experiencers. So I don't know. Maybe it comes down to the individual choices that we make, and who we want to align with, and where we allow the content of our consciousness to go. We can focus on the negative. We can focus on the fear and the paranoia. We can focus on the spiritual growth, the positive aspects of the phenomena. I think they're both equally real. So I don't have any. All I can do is kind of try to shed my own light on it. I don't have any definitive answers.
Thank you, Robert. That was very insightful, as usual. I'm going to turn this back over to you, Gloria.
Thank you for my little break. It's a great question. So we just got, have they all answered the question, Chris? Have they all answered?
We have.
Yeah. I mean, my truth, I'll finish on my truth. My truth is the colander analogy. I am consciousness, having accumulated. So we've got consciousness, the ball of light or whatever, but the colander over, and there's billions of individual singularities coming out. Consciousness experiencing different experiences through the human experience. So, if Chris come running down the road with a knife to kill me, I would defend myself, okay? I would, kung fu hui him and win, obviously. Doesn't stop me. I'm experiencing being human. However, I perceive what you call the dark side, the others. It's just consciousness experiencing on that level. And also why consciousness on that level now, it's heightened to push itself to know itself. Because what's been happening to humanity, it's with the external pressures, it's forcing the Homo sapiens sapien who is unaware. It is not the meat body, limited, do as you're told, just, it is more. And I think Ryder's said it to me before, we are the gods. And we are the gods, little g, by the way. Even the man Jesus said, you are all gods. We are the gods. So for me, there is no anything outside consciousness. It's all consciousness, and portraying that experience. And now is the time, we can call it the awakening, to know thyself. And when you know yourself, who you truly are, life is joyous. There's no fear, there's no anger. It's just giggles. And I spend half my time looking at people going, you're awake. In my head, you're awake. You're playing peekaboo. You're going to, and that's where it goes. And for me, it's here. We're just at the very end of the birth canal where we've got to hold our breaths and not push. Not push. That happens in labor. You get to the point before new life, you don't push, no matter what. And that means don't push back. Don't get involved. Just flow, like Faye said. The animals flow through the experience. They flow. They don't hold trauma. We've got to let go of the trauma. We've got to do this work. And trust me, we are successful. Because I said we are. So there you go. It's just any more than that. On that note, I want to thank the panel so much for taking us all into a conversation that has never been had, okay? And I'm hoping this will be the seeding for future conversations on all our individual shows, in all our writings. Oh, what's that? What is that? A sign? What's he doing? I don't know if he's swearing at me.
He's doing some MK Ultra stuff on us. I don't know.
We'll have to watch him. The MK. We're going to call it MK Spaceman soon, and that we can take this out. And if other podcast hosts or TV producers or whatever pick up on this and say it's a good idea, there's no plagiarism. Go take this, get out there, have this conversation with everybody. Ask them, ask them any of the questions you've heard us discuss tonight. We have gone so far down the rabbit hole, there's no coming out now. We're camped down, and when we get together, we're on each other's shows, or whether we come together in another panel meeting, we will go deeper and deeper, because our truths are going to change the more we expand. So I thank you all so much. Okay, I thank you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. And thank you, Ryder. Thank you, Faye, Robert, and Chris. And thank you, audience. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Soon Chris will release it out there to the big wide world, and coming to an Android near you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.